as you know, Jim, the Chinese market is getting bigger and bigger. And I think the Chinese government is actually opening the market access for Western investors, for foreign investors. Right? So people can actually come into the domestic Asian market and buy things that they want. Now, when I first started, doing research almost 25 years ago, there was only like 100 shares in the Chinese market. And now it's like 4,000 shares, right? So I think as a value investor, even for a value investor such as you, I think it would be sort of difficult to pick stock now because you have 4,000 stocks to pick. Now, in such a market, with increasing open access for foreign investors, with 4,000 stocks to choose from, how do you what are some of the criteria that you would use to pick and choose stocks to put money in?
Well, yes, there are 4,000, but around the world there are 40,000. I don't limit myself just to one nation or even one asset. I miss many things, but I try to look at the whole world and find things to buy. I mentioned to you silver. Well, I will be buying more silver soon. I'll be buying more gold too. Silver is much cheaper than gold. But my point is I try to look at everything. Yes, there are 4,000 shares in China now. And I wish I had bought Tencent. Bought some of those Chinese shares. I own many Chinese shares. Don't worry, I do not own Tencent. I wish I did. In stocks like that. That's partly because it was always too expensive for me. But as I look at China and any market, what I try to do is find something that's cheap. And that's usually based on the historic, like silver, the historic value, for instance, it's down a lot, or some Chinese shares. I try to find something that's ignored, cheap, but where there's a positive change taking place. If I can find something where a positive change is taking place and it's not exploited, then I usually will buy it, whether it's a country or a commodity or whatever, stock. It could be Zimbabwe. It doesn't have to be just China. I try not to limit myself to just one nation. But I am lazier and lazier. It's easier to not be looking at the whole world, but I love the world, so I still do it.
But Jim, because you have been very successful in investing your money. Yeah, I read that you started with $600 and ended up with $600 million US, which is phenomenal success. Now, for those less fortunate though, they may have
I make many mistakes.
Right. So how do they get the exposure? Like, how do they invest? Because they have only limited amount of resources and money, right? So how do they get sort of the best exposure, best investments? How do they pick and choose? Because they only have that much money instead of $600 million US to deploy. They probably only have like $60,000 to invest. So for people with a lot less money, they can gain a lot less exposure. Right, so how do they, for smaller guys such as those, how do they get the best investment opportunities in this environment?
Well, for Chinese, as you know, China is still a closed, your currency is still blocked. You cannot, it's not a freely tradable currency like the euro or the Australian dollar or something. So Chinese are a little more limited in what they can invest in than Germans or some countries. But there are opportunities in China, and maybe there will be opportunities elsewhere. But the main answer to your question is, the only answer to your question is, people should just invest in what they themselves know a lot about. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to some guy on the TV or the internet. Maybe listen to you, Mr. Hong, but they should not listen to me or other people or people on the TV or the newspaper. If you want to be a successful investor, You invest only in what you know a lot. Now, everybody watching this knows a lot about something, whether it's cars or fashion or something. You go there every day. That's what you look at on the TV and the internet. So stay with, when you see something you know is going to work, do some more, think like an investor. Then do some more research, and maybe you will buy the stock. You will find it before I will, because that's what you do every day anyway. You love fashion. I know nothing about fashion, but you will see something changing. You will know it's going to work, so then you find it. Now, if I told you you could only have 20 investments in your life, you would be very careful. You wouldn't jump in and out. You'd be very, very careful about what you invested in. And that's how you would become a successful investor. It's boring. People say, boring, boring. No. If you want to be successful, that's how you do it. And then people say, well, just give me one hot tip. One hot tip. Mr. Hong, hot tips will ruin you. Do not invest in hot tips. Do not invest in hot tips. Stay with what you know, whoever you are, whether you're a Chinese who's limited mainly to the Chinese market or somebody who can invest all over the world. If you want to be successful, stay with what you know. There are plenty of opportunities. Whatever you know a lot about, there will be plenty of opportunities in your lifetime, whether it's agriculture, fashion, cars, whatever it is. Stay with what you know, and you will find success.
Thanks, Jim. I want to know, so back then, back in the 1987, October 19th, which happens to be your birthday as well, when the market crashed, you actually make a huge prescient call on that day, on your birthday, back in 1987. I think your reasoning. I read through the reasoning because you sort of lay out your reasoning, your logic during the interview. So you're basically saying that the Fed make a mistake. Back then Greenspan was saying the trade balance is going to be great, but it was actually the worst in history, and I think the U.S. Treasury was making a huge budget deficit. That probably they can't ever repay. Now it's the budget deficit is getting much bigger now. Now if I use that reason back in October 1987, apply that set of logic to the market right now, I have to say it's quite similar, right? So we can be sure that the Fed, the central banks, they have no idea what they're doing, and the budget deficit is getting much larger now. So can I say, if I use the same reasoning, can I say that maybe there's another market crash around the corner?
Well, I'm delighted you brought it up. I mean, sometimes I get it right, but I do make many mistakes, and that was certainly the best birthday I had ever had up until that point in time. Is this like that? We're going to have problems in the financial markets again. Will we have a 1987, a one-day crash like that? Probably not, unless a war or something breaks out. Could happen, as markets get higher and higher. I do know, Mr. Holmes, we're going to continue to have bear markets. We're going to have to continue to have bad times in markets and in economies. We always have. Now, the new Treasury Secretary in America says, no, we have solved the problems, no more problems. She's got degrees from two very famous Ivy League universities in America, so she's well educated. I happen to think she's totally wrong. I know we've always had problems, and we will again. What I want to say is the next time we have one, it's going to be terrible. We had a big problem in 2008 because of too much debt. Now, debt everywhere has skyrocketed. I mean, even China has debt now. China didn't have any debt 20 years ago. Even China has debt now. So the next time we have a problem, it's got to be very, very bad. So I hope that everybody will listen to your shows, listen to the Bank of Communications. It better still learn, become knowledgeable, educate themselves, then they will become worried. And if they become worried, they will be prepared when we have bad times again. We are going to have bad times again someday. Not now, I don't think. Someday we will. And everybody watching this show should be prepared, become knowledgeable, and then you will not have any problems. You know, in the Great Depression in the 30s, some people came out of that very, very successful. Meaning most people lost everything. But if you will do your homework and are prepared, things will be okay, even when things go bad. Remember Wei Ji?
Yes.
Wei Ji?
Wei Ji.
Remember Wei Ji?
Crisis
Be
produces
prepared.
opportunities. Yeah.
Be prepared.